Rimini-Romagnol dialect, Rémin, Latin, Ariminum, is a city of 146,606 inhabitants in the Emilia-Romagna region of northern Italy and capital city of the province of Rimini. It is located on the Adriatic Sea, on the coast between the rivers Marecchia and Ausa. It is one of the most famous seaside resorts in Europe, thanks to its 15-kilometer-long sandy beach, over 1,000 hotels, and thousands of bars, restaurants and discos. The first bathing establishment opened in 1843. An art city with ancient Roman and Renaissance monuments, Rimini is the hometown of the famous film director Federico Fellini as well. Founded by the Romans in 268 BC, throughout the period of rule Rimini was a key communications link between the north and south of the peninsula, and on its soil Roman emperors erected monuments like the Arch of Augustus and the Tiberius Bridge, while during the Renaissance, the city benefited from the court of the House of Malatesta, which hosted artists like Leonardo and produced works such as the Malatesta Temple. In the 19th century, Rimini was one of the most active cities in the Revolutionary Front, hosting many of the movements aimed at the unification of Italy. In the course of World War II, the city was the scene of clashes and bombings, but also of a fierce partisan resistance that earned it the honor of a gold medal for civic valor. Finally, in recent years it has become one of the most important sites for trade fairs and conferences in Italy. The total approximate population of the Rimini urban area is 225,000 and the provincial population is 330,000. History. For ecclesiastical history, see Roman Catholic Diocese of Rimini. Ancient history. In 268 BC at the mouth of the Ariminus River, in an area that had previously been inhabited by the Etruscans, the Umbrians, the Greeks and the Gauls, the Romans founded the colony of Ariminum, probably from the name of a nearby river, Ariminus. Previously the area had been Gaulish from the 6th century BC, to the group's final defeat in 283 BC by the Umbri, in whose possession it remained until 263 BC when it became a Latin colony very helpful to the Romans during the late Gallic Wars. The city was involved in the civil wars but remained faithful to the popular party and to its leaders, firstly Marius, and then Caesar. After crossing the Rubicon, the latter made his legendary appeal to the legions in the Forum of Rimini. Ariminum was seen as a bastion against invaders from Gaul and also as a springboard for conquering the Padana plain. As the terminus of the Via Flaminia, which ended here in the surviving prestigious Arch of Augustus, Rimini was a road junction connecting central Italy and northern Italy by the Via Aemilia that led to Piacenza and the Via Populia that extended northwards. It also opened up trade by sea in river. Remains of the amphitheatre that could seat 12,000 people and a 5-arched bridge of Istrian stone completed by Tiberius are also still visible. Later, Gallo Placida built the church of San Stefano. Crisis in the Roman world was marked by destruction caused by invasions and wars, but also by the testimony of the palaces of the imperial officers in the first churches, the symbol of the spread of Christianity that held an important council in Rimini in 359. Middle Ages. When the Ostrogoths conquered Rimini in 493, Odoacer, besieged in Ravenna, had to capitulate. During the Gothic War Rimini was taken and retaken many times. In its vicinity the Byzantine general Narses overthrew the Alemanni. Under the Byzantine rule, it belonged to the Pentapolis, part of the Exarchate of Ravenna. In 728, it was taken with many other cities by the Lombard king Liutprand but returned to the Byzantines about 735. King Pepin gave it to the Holy See, but during the wars of the popes and the Italian cities against the emperors, Rimini sided with the latter. In the 13th century, it suffered from the discords of the Gambacari and Ausa It families. The city became a municipality in the 14th century, and with the arrival of the religious orders, numerous convents and churches were built, providing work for many illustrious artists. In fact, Giotto inspired the 14th century school of Rimini, which was the expression of original cultural ferment. The Malatesta family emerged from the struggles between municipal factions, with Malatesta da Verrocchio, who in 1239 was named podesta of the city. Despite interruptions, his family held authority until 1528. In 1312 he was succeeded by Malatesta II, first signor of the city, and Pandolfo I, the latter's brother, named by Louis the Bavarian imperial vicar in Romagna. Ferentino, son of Malatesta II, was opposed by his cousin Ramberto and by Cardinal Bertando del Pogotto, legate of John XXII. Malatesta Guastafamiglia was also Lord of Pesaro. He was succeeded by Malatesta Ungaro and Galeotto, uncle of the former, Lord also of Fano, Pesaro, and Cesena. His son Carlo, one of the most respected condottieri of the time, enlarged the Rimini's possessions and restored the port. Carlo died childless in 1429, and the lordship was divided into three parts, Rimini going to Galeotto Roberto, a Catholic zealot who turned out to be totally inadequate for the role. The Pesares line of the Malatestas tried, in fact, to take advantage of his weakness and to capture the city, but Sigismondo Pandolfo Malatesta, Carlo's nephew, who was only 14 at the time, intervened to save it. Galeotto retired to a convent, and Sigismondo obtained the rule of Rimini. Sigismondo Pandolfo was the most famous lord of Rimini. In 1433 Emperor Sigismund sojourned in the city, and for a while he was the commander-in-chief of the papal armies. A skilled general, Sigismondo often acted as condottiero for other states to gain money to embellish it. He had the famous Tempio Malatestiano rebuilt by Leon Battista Alberti. However, after the rise of Pope Pius II, he had to fight constantly for the independence of the city. In 1463, he was forced to submit to Pius II, who left him only Rimini and little more. Roberto Malatesta, his son, under Pope Paul II, nearly lost his state, but under Sixtus IV became the commanding officer of the pontifical army against Ferdinand of Naples. Sigismondo was, however, defeated by Neapolitan forces in the Battle of Campomarto. Pandolfo IV, his son, lost Rimini to Cesare Borgia, after whose overthrow it fell to Venice, but it was later retaken by Pope Julius II and incorporated into the Papal States. After the death of Pope Leo X, Pandolfo returned for several months, and with his son Sigismondo held a rule which looked tyrannous even for the time. Pope Adrian VI expelled him again and gave Rimini to the Duke of Urbino, the Pope's vicar in Romagna. In 1527 Sigismondo managed to regain the city, but in the following year the Malatesta dominion died forever. Renaissance and Enlightenment. At the beginning of the 16th century, Rimini, now a secondary town of the Papal States, was ruled by an apostolic legate. Towards the end of the 16th century, the municipal square, which had been closed off on a site where the Paletti Theatre was subsequently built, was redesigned. The statue of Pope Paul V has stood in the center of the square next to the fountain since 1614. In the 16th century, the Grand Square, which was where markets and tournaments were held, underwent various changes. A small temple dedicated to St. St. Anthony of Padua and a clock tower were built there, giving the square its present shape and size. Until the 18th century, raiding armies, earthquakes, famines, floods and pirate attacks ravaged the city. In this gloomy situation, and due to a weakened local economy, fishing took on great importance, a fact testified by the construction of structures such as the fish market and the lighthouse. In 1797, Rimini, along with the rest of Romagna, was affected by the passage of the Napoleonic army and became part of the Cisalpine Republic. Napoleonic policy suppressed the monastic orders, confiscating the property and thus dispersing a substantial heritage, and demolished many churches including the ancient Cathedral of Santa Colomba. Modern history. On the 30th of March 1815, Wikimedia launched his Rimini proclamation to the Italian people from here, hoping to incite them to unity and independence. In 1845, a band of adventurers commanded by Ribotti entered the city and proclaimed a constitution which was soon abolished. In 1860, Rimini and Romagnol were incorporated into the Kingdom of Italy. The city was transformed after the 1843 founding of the first bathing establishment in the Cursale. A building constructed to host sumptuous social events became the symbol of Rimini's status as a tourist resort. In just a few years, the seafront underwent considerable development work, making Rimini the city of small villas. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Grand Hotel, the city's first major accommodation facility, was built near the beach. During the First World War, Rimini and its surrounding infrastructure was one of the primary targets of the Austro-Hungarian Navy. After Italy's declaration of war on the 15th of May 1915, the Austro-Hungarian fleet left its harbors the same day and started its assault on the Adriatic coast between Venice and Barletta. During World War II, the city was torn apart by heavy bombardments and by the passage of the front over the Gothic line during the Battle of Rimini, and was eventually captured by Greek and Canadian forces. Following its liberation on September 21, 1944, reconstruction work began, culminating in huge development of the tourist industry in the city. Geography. Topography. Rimini is situated at 44 degrees 03' of latitude north, 12 degrees 34' of longitude east, along the coast of the Adriatic Sea, at the southeastern edge of Emilia-Romagna, at a short distance from Montefeltro and Marsh. Rimini extends for 135.71 square km and borders the municipalities of Bellaria, Igea Marina, San Mauro Pascoli and Sant'Arcangelo de Romagna towards NW, Verrocchio and Serravalle towards SW, Coriano towards S and Riccione towards Che. Rimini is located in a historically strategic position at the extreme southern edge of the Po Valley, at the junction point of northern and central Italy. It is surrounded towards southwest by the gently hills of Covignano, Vergiano, San Martino, Monte Labate and San Lorenzo in Correggiano, widely cultivated, with vineyards, olive groves and orchards, and dominated by ancient mansions. These hills, mostly made of clay and sand, connect the plains, created by Marecchia and Ausa, the two most important rivers of Rimini territory, to the higher hills of the Apennines. The Marecchia River runs through its valley and the plain in a very large riverbed, and, after receiving the waters of Ausa, it flows into the Adriatic Sea through a deviator between San Giuliano Mare and Rivabella, while the ancient riverbed is used in its last section as the city's harbor. The Marecchia, usually poor of water, was subjected to periodic, destructive floods near its mouth, where the riverbed became narrow after various bends. For this reason it was deviated towards north. Ausa Creek, which was the eastern limit of Rimini for many centuries, was deviated as well after World War II, and its original riverbed was filled and turned into an urban park. The coastal strip, made of recent marine deposits, is edged by a fine sandy beach, 15 kilometers long and up to 200 meters wide, interrupted only by the mouth of the rivers and gently shelving towards the sea. Along the coastline there is a low sandy cliff, created by sea rise around 4000 BC, partly conservated north of Rimini, between Riva Bella and Emilia-Romagna, at a distance of about 1,300 meters from the sea. Rimini's territory, for its geographical position and its climatic features, is situated on the edge between the Mediterranean and the Central European phytoclimatic zones, and thus it represents an environment of notable naturalistic value. District's Rimini is the main center of a 50 kilometers long coastal conurbation, which extends from Servia to Gabice Mare, including the seaside resorts of Cesenatico, Gatteo e Mare, Bellaria Marina, Riccione, Misano, Adriatico and Catalia. The conurbation has about 300,000 inhabitants and originated around the mid-20th century due to urban sprawl following intensive tourism development. The city of Rimini includes the seaside localities and districts of Torpedrera, Visabella, Visaba, Rivabella, San Giuliano Mare towards north and Bellariva, Mare Bello, Rivazura, Miramare towards south. The city proper includes the historic center, the four ancient boroughs of S. Giuliano, S. Giovanni, S. Andrea and Marina, the seaside district of Marina Centro and various modern districts, Celle, Marecchias, Inacasa, Vipe, Colonnella, the Gumaggio, and outer suburbs such as Paglioli, Spaderalo, Covignano, Grottarossa and Villaggio 1 degree Maggio, located outside of the Adriatic highway beltline. More outer suburbs are S. Giustina, S. Vito, Spaderalo, Vergiano, Corpolo and Gaiafana. The historic center of Rimini, surrounded by the city walls built by Malatesta and formerly bounded by Marecchia and Ausa, has a distinctive, regular urban structure of Roman origins. It was divided since Middle Ages in four districts: Cittadella, Clodio, Pomposo and Montecavallo. The boundaries of these districts are not known, but it is assumed that they followed the current Corso d'Agosto, Via Garibaldi and Via Gamballunga. Rione Cittadella, in the western area of the center, was the most important district of the city and included the municipal palaces, Castel Sismondo and the Cathedral of Santa Colomba. Rione Clodio, towards north, was popular and a peculiar urban structure tied with the near Marecchia River and the ancient coastline, situated much inland than today's one. Rione Pomposo, the most wide district of the city, included large orchards and convents. Rione Montecavallo, on the southern part of the historical center, is characterized by bowed, irregular streets of medieval origins, by the Fossa Patara Creek and a small hill called Monterone. Outside of the city walls, there are four boroughs, which were entirely incorporated to the city by the urban sprawl in early 20th century. Borgo S. Giuliano, along Via Emilia, dates back to 11th century and was originally a fishermen's settlement, dominated by the Church of San Giuliano. It is one of the most picturesque spots of the city, with narrow streets and squares, colorful small houses and many frescoes representing characters and places of Federico Fellini's films. Borgo S. Giovanni, on both sides of Via Flaminia, was populated of artisans and middle-class. Borgo S. Andrea, located outside of Porta Montanara, along Via Covignano, Via Montefeltro and Via Monte Titano, was strictly tied with agriculture and commerce of cows. Both these two boroughs were developed in 15th century, then they burned in a fire in 1469 and were rebuilt in 19th century, relocating small industries and manufactures, including a brick factory and a phosphorus matches factory. Borgo Marina, situated on the right bank of Marecchia, was a portual borough, heavily transformed by fascist demolitions and World War II bombings, which hit this area due to the proximity to the bridges of the city and the railway station. Climate. Rimini has a humid subtropical climate moderated by the influence of the Adriatic Sea, featuring the highest autumn and winter mean temperatures and the highest annual low temperatures in Emilia-Romagna. Precipitations are equally distributed during the year, with a peak in October and two slight minimums in January and July. In spring, autumn and winter precipitations mainly come from oceanic fronts, while in summer they are brought by thunderstorms, coming from the Apennines of the Po Valley. Humidity is high all year round, with a minimum of 72% in June and July and a maximum of 84% in November and December. Prevailing winds blow from W.S.E. and N.E. southwesterly winds, known as Libeccio e Garbino, are foehn winds, which may bring warm temperatures in each season. On average, there are over 2,040 sunshine hours per year. Demographics. Population as of 2014. Rimini has 147,537 inhabitants, with a density of over 1,080 inhabitants per square kilometre within the city limits. In 1861, by the time of the first Italian census, the population was around 28,000. In 1931 was more than double, 57,000. With the increasing tourism development, population rapidly grew between 1951 and 1981, the fastest growing period for Rimini in the 20th century, when the city's population grew from 77,000 to over 128,000. By the end of the century, population growth rate slowed down due to the marked decreasing of natality rate, before rising again in the first decade of the 21st century, thanks to immigration. During the 20th century, two former districts of Rimini got administrative autonomy, causing two distinct temporary drops in population totals. Riccione in 1922 and Bellaria Igea Marina in 1956. Foreign population is 18,396, mainly from Eastern Europe, Eastern Asia and Northern Africa. Between 1992 and 2014, foreign population grew from around 1.800 to over 18.000 units. The most important foreign communities are Albanians, Romanians, Ukrainians, Chinese and Moldovans. Other notable foreign groups in the city are Senegalese, Moroccans, Macedonians, Tunisians, Russians, Bangladeshi and Peruvians. Religion. Rimini's population is mostly Catholic. The city is the seat of the Diocese of Rimini, of suffragan of the Archdiocese of Ravenna Servia. The first cathedral of the diocese was the former Cathedral of Santa Columba until 1798, when the title was transferred to the Church of Sant'Agostino. Since 1809, Rimini's cathedral is the Tempio Malatestianum. Besides Roman Catholic churches, there are also Orthodox, Evangelical and Adventist churches. Between 13th and 14th century, Rimini had a flourishing Jewish community, which built three distinct synagogues, all destroyed, formerly located around the area of Piazza Cavour, Via Cairoli and Santa Columba. Economy. Rimini is a major international tourist destination and seaside resort, among the most famous ones in Europe and the Mediterranean basin, thanks to a long sandy beach, well-equipped bathing establishments, theme parks and a number of opportunities for leisure and spare time. The economy of the city is entirely based on tourism, whose development started in the first half of the 19th century and increased after World War II. Rimini's origins as a seaside resort date back to 1843, when was founded the first bathing establishment, the oldest one of the Adriatic Sea. The wideness of the beach, the gentle gradient of the seabed, the equipment of bathing establishments, the luxurious hotels, the mildness of the climate, the richness of curative waters, the prestigious social events, made Rimini a renowned tourist destination among the Italian and European aristocracy. Tourism in Rimini started as therapeutic stay, evolving in airlight vacation in the late 19th century, in middle-class tourism during the fascist era, and finally in mass tourism in the post-war period. Rimini concentrates a quarter of Emilia-Romagna's hotels, with over 1,000 hotels, 300 of which are open all year round, and hundreds of apartment hotels, apartments, holiday homes, bed and amp, breakfast and campings. Tourism is mainly based on seaside holidays, but also includes trade fairs and conventions, events, nightlife, culture, wellness, food and wine. Rimini is a leading trade fair and convention site in Italy, with an important trade fair and a convention center. The city's other economic sectors, such as services, commerce, construction industry, have been influenced by the development of tourism. Commerce is one of the main economic sectors, thanks to the presence of a large wholesale center, 2 hypermarkets, department stores, supermarkets and hundreds of shops and boutiques. Industry, less developed than tourism and services, includes various companies active in food industry, woodworking machineries, building constructions, furnishing, clothing and publishing. Notable companies are Bimota, SCM, Trevies, PA. Rimini is also seat of a historic railway works plant. Agriculture and fishing were the city's main economic sources until the early 20th century. Rimini boasts an important tradition in wine production and an historic extra virgin olive oil production. The most common crops of the area, besides vineyards and olive groves, are orchards, vegetables and legumes, seminatives, sunflowers and canola. Fishing industry can count on a fleet of about 100 fishing boats, the most consistent of Rimini's fishing department, which includes the coast between Catalia and Cesenatico.